At 6:48 hours today, Corporal Chapurnov was discharged from the infirmary and returned for active duty. I was surprised that the doctors had almost literally dragged him out of bed, even though no training was scheduled for today. They could have at least let him sleep the night. Anyway, still haunted by the events of Operation Banished Crone, I paid the troops a visit, especially to talk with Chapurnov. I don't know whether I was seeking some comfort or if I was growing doubtful of my abilities. What was he going to tell me? That I'm a good commander and everyone makes mistakes? That it's not a big deal and I should not worry so much? Ridiculous thought. But regardless, keeping some bond with those I command will do good for my and their morale. I found him reading a book in his native tongue. I was hesitant on if I should disturb him, so I asked if he had a moment. He told me he couldn't really focus anyway. I could tell his spirits were nowhere near as high as at the start of the month. We started talking about that damned operation. Because about what else? He told me of how he felt back there. He told me how his flight or fight instincts in that moment were so strong. He told me how his whole body was extremely tense, and every movement felt like it cost him the world. In the moment when he heard Guzman's body hit the ground, just as aliens started dropping from the literal sky, and all remaining operatives missed their shots, he was one push away from completely breaking down. I don't know what I wanted to hear, but this did not make me feel any better about myself. Still, I think it gave me some reflection on how ruthless the aliens can be. Chapurnov didn't seem to have any ill will towards me. This is because it might have been my mistake that got Guzman killed, but in the end it was the aliens who did the killing. We are facing a situation never before faced by any human, so in a way, we cannot be expected to give any more than our 100%. Another fairly uneventful day. It was weirdly empty in the command center, but I still sat down and completed my shift. I started wondering about the council and what they could have possibly thought of my performance. I found it weird how even I don't have a direct way to contact them. It's always them who call us at the base. I'm sure they were eyeing our every move and assessing us all, but never saying anything. In a way, I bet the aliens are doing the same thing. Who were these people that even we, the people responsible for keeping Earth safe, don't know who they are? Maybe unfounded, but there was a feeling in the back of my head that the Council might know more of the aliens than they're letting on. Quite an exciting new development today. The scientists have finished their investigation into MELD, and the report was done. They told me it was essentially a set of nanomachines which could recombine on their own into various structures. The practical applications of this would be that soldiers could undergo genetic modification, applying the MELD directly into their bodies. The alternative was that we could construct MECs, large armored mechanized suits for our units. The meld would act as an interface between the human's body and the cybernetic components. This process would require the soldier to be permanently augmented, turning them into a blend of metal machine and living creature. Dr. Valen and Dr. Shen were presenting me with such novel and exciting prospects that my mind was racing to think of how we could utilize them. However, I was apprehensive in the moment. There was a strange feeling inside of me that either of these two processes would irreversibly alter the subjects. We were all ready to give our lives for the war, but this seemed like a step sideways, maybe even too far out of line. Take the sectoids, for example. They had no mouths. How did they eat? Or the thin men. They were clearly engineered to look like us. These creatures, no doubt, were the result of artificial intervention. If we followed the same path, What would that make of us? Thankfully, I didn't have to make an indecision now. We could construct the respective facilities anytime. For the next project, I decided to bite the bullet and go for beam weapons. Increased firepower will be the key to winning more engagements and keeping everyone as safe as possible. Furthermore, I ordered to start more excavation. I didn't yet know what would be constructed there, but we can't go wrong with more space. At 6:48 hours, the workshop construction was complete. Clearly, we didn't manage to secure additional engineers in time, so I could already tell the uplink would be just a few hours too late. Still, I sold off whatever I could to start work on this facility. This will certainly hurt our finances in the long term, but we could still send out one by the end of the month. I was looking back at the logs, trying to figure out where we went wrong. I think the excavation at the very start offset everything by a little too much. If I was desperate, I could have built the workshop on the western wing of the facility, but I wanted to save that area to build all uplinks next to each other. Who knows if it was worth it? Only time will tell. Today, the construction of the officer training school was complete. As soon as it was, I sold off almost the rest of alien artifacts we had remaining in order to buy a squad-size upgrade. Where this money was going, and why it cost this much, was beyond me, but I was now able to send out one more soldier on any mission, a significant power spike, so to speak. However, I was concerned about my spending. We did have the backing of the richest country in the world, but I constantly had to sell off recovered items. Moreover, I was starting to have dark thoughts over what was happening with them. In the wrong hands, I bet Illyrium, for example, could do a lot of harm, or cause damage to those trying to study it. But in the end, who says we are any more responsible than others? Something unusual happened today. The Council had informed us that Russia wants a satellite over them hard, so they will provide a lump sum of money if we were to send one over them within 20 days, on top of the regular monthly funding. The prospect was very tempting, but I chose to wait until the end of the month to decide where to launch the one satellite. This action would be sure to significantly reduce panic in the region, so I wanted to see where it was needed the most. I was relieved by the end of the day to find that we had a grand total of 0 emergency operations this week. Less opportunities to gather artifacts, rewards, and train soldiers, but it did mean 0 risks and problems worldwide as well. Not knowing what else to really do with myself, I went down to the barracks in the evening. The atmosphere seemed better off than even a few days ago, and I had a good time holding some conversations with the soldiers. While the place still felt empty without Guzman, they all appeared fairly confident again, and the strangely long time without an operation seemed to do them good, and gave us all some rest.